What is going on, everybody? It is time for another episode of All Yellow Jackets. This is your host, Jackson Caldwell, and I'm coming in to break down the game tomorrow. South Carolina State is coming to Bobby Dodd. It's the first home game of the season. Yes, I know they played in Atlanta last week, but it wasn't at Bobby Dodd, so I don't count it as a home game. We're going to break that game down, just kind of give like a position by position what we're looking for tomorrow and a prediction. Like, what's a show without a prediction? But first, I want to shout out Georgia Tech volleyball. They won again today. They are 5-0. They are just criminally underranked right now. They have beaten Penn State, a top 10 team. They beat Ohio State, a top 15 team, and they got another win today against South Alabama. They're 5-0. They're rolling right now. So big shout out to them. They're a lot of fun to cover. Really good team. So be sure to go there and support them whenever you can, whenever they're playing at home. And just they're playing really well right now. But it's time to talk about the football game tomorrow at Bobby Dodd Stadium. Georgia Tech, obviously, coming off the disappointing second half. I won't say a disappointing game because there was a lot of bright spots in that game, but a very disappointing second half. And coming into this game, you know, I know a lot of people are going to overlook the opponent and whatnot, but that's not what they need to do. They haven't. Nobody should be doing that, but they definitely have not earned that position to do so. And they just need to be looking for improvement from the things that they did not do well last week. And that's what I'm going to get into today. So got to start off with the offense. Just the second quarter last week was obviously an explosion of 4 touchdowns, 28 points, big plays, Chase Lane, touchdown, Jamal Haynes caught a big pass, Malik Rutherford a big pass. That was the only good quarter of offense they had. So when I'm talking about what I want to see this weekend, I want to see just consistency from quarter to quarter. Yeah, I know they're not going to score a 50-yard touchdown every single drive they're on the field. It would be nice. I welcome it. That's a lot of fun. But that's just realistically not going to happen. When I look at the quarterback position, like Haynes King was pretty solid in his debut. I mean, when you go like 19 to 32, throw for over 300 yards, throw for 3 touchdowns, it's pretty good. But there are several things that he needs to work on. And like when I watched that game in Mercedes-Benz last week, I think pocket awareness is number one. Just being aware of the rush, being able to step up when he needs to, and being able to go outside of the pocket and make plays. Like he was very good on scrambles at times and on some design runs, and I think he's going to use his legs in some games this season. This is not one of them. Like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but this is a game that they should win by a lot of points, and you don't want Haynes King going out there and sacrificing his body for big hits against a team of this caliber. Like, you play Ole Miss next week and you play Wake Forest the week after that. Like, he's going to be needed. So one of the things I'm watching is just for him to not take off a lot of the time, not be the leading rusher at the end of the day. And just, I want to see some more downfield throws. Like, overall, he was pretty good last week, but a lot of them were quick hits and yards after the catch. Like the Chase Lane touchdown, quick hitter, he ran for a lot of yards after the catch and scored a touchdown, was really good. The short pass to Jamal Haynes took it a long way. I think 46 yards, I think, was his longest catch of the game. I do want to see some more vertical passing attacks, though. Like, I want to see them being able to push the ball down the field, some quick strikes. They did that. They scored quickly last week pretty well, but I do want to see some more downfield throws that plenty of receivers should get to play. And I just want to see Haynes King maybe push the ball outside the hashes a little bit. Like, some of the throws were down the middle, some of them were short. An improvement, I think a good thing week to week would be just some deep throws outside the hashes. But overall, it was solid. And I'm sure some other quarterbacks are going to get playing time as well this week too. Like, this should be the 2023 debut of Zach Pyron and possibly Zach Gibson as well, depending on what the score is and how he wants to handle that. But overall, just, you know, the little things, the pocket presence, the throws outside the numbers, I do think that's what I want to see from Haynes King tomorrow, and that's what I'm going to be watching closely in terms of the quarterback position. When you move over to running back, you know, obviously it was a pretty solid effort in the first half, especially in the second quarter. It was mostly a 3-headed monster. Jamal Haynes, Trey Cooley, Dante Smith were the main ball carriers. Evan Dickens, the true freshman, he did get 1 carry. I think Jamal Haynes is kind of the guy I'm most intrigued by from week to week, just because of what he showed in the passing game as well. Like, he also caught four passes for 56 yards, as well as adding 51 yards on the ground as well. He is an extremely shifty and fast player. Like, anytime he touches the ball, he is one of those guys that can take it to the house legitimately. Like, he really a single cutback, you know, he can make a guy miss. And I'm kind of interested to see if he's the leading ball carrier again. Like, he led the team in carries last week with 11, No other running back was in the double digits. Haynes King did take off 10 times, but some of those were obviously not designed runs. Some of those were scrambles. So Jamal Haynes, I'm definitely looking to see what he can pick up on from last week and try to see if he can just duplicate it. Like, is he going to be a threat in the passing game again? And can he have some more big carries? He had a long of 13 last week, and I think I'm looking to see if he can create some bigger plays on the field. Trey Cooley obviously dominated in the second quarter, 2 touchdowns last week. He finished with, let's see, 52 yards on 9 carries. I kind of want to see if he gets more action because he didn't really do a ton in the second half, and I think they leaned on Haynes a little bit more, and I kind of want to see if Cooley gets a little bit more run, whether it be in the first half, the second half. Again, just a continuation of the good things that he did last week, and then I mean, everybody knows that Dante Smith can be an explosive player. Like he's another one that can take it the distance, and I'm sure he's going to get plenty of carries in the first half. If the game goes as expected, I do want to see, if Dickens gets in because he had a really good preseason camp and he's a physical runner, an element that I don't know that the other 3 guys bring. I think that he can, and I think he's going to be a player to monitor as the season goes on. And I think tomorrow could be his first big opportunity to really get on the field. So in terms of the running backs, I'm just looking to see if they can have a continuation of some of the skill sets they flashed last week but weren't consistent on. Like I think Jamal Haynes flashed that he can be an explosive element in both the passing and the running game. I think Cooley showed that he scored 2 touchdowns. He can be a factor in the running game as well. Didn't do a lot in the receiving game. And then Dante Smith's kind of your reliable veteran presence in the backfield. And he's going to be a factor all season. So definitely on the lookout for that. And moving over to receivers, again, I think one guy I have my eye on in particular tomorrow is Eric Singleton Jr., the true freshman. He made a couple of big catches in the fourth quarter, including the touchdown catch that pulled Georgia Tech within 5 of Louisville at the end of the game. He has a lot of speed and playmaking ability, and I think he is somebody that can really change the dynamic of how this Georgia Tech offense attacks down the field. I think he can be a big play threat when he's called upon, and I think he's going to get plenty of snaps tomorrow. I think he showed what he's capable of in the fourth quarter last week. Obviously, the names everybody knows, Malik Rutherford, Chase Lane, Dominic Blaylock, those guys, Christian Leary, those guys are going to get a lot of playing time, especially in the first half. Again, they all flashed their big playability. Malik had a 55-yard catch. Chase Lane had a 48-yard touchdown. I want to see those guys be able to attack the field and defeat what is not a great defense. You look at their South Carolina State's first game against Jackson State. They threw the ball for 356 yards, and their quarterback was 26 of 30. Like that's now Jackson State is a good football program, even without Deion Sanders as the head coach. But that shows you that they were able to be efficient and really attack South Carolina State through the air. I mean, they had 3 players all record at least 4 receptions. So I'm kind of looking to see if the ball is going to be distributed like that tomorrow, and which guys are making the big plays down the field. Like I said, Singleton. It's going to be a theme for me through this whole show. In games like this where you're a heavy favorite, I think seeing true freshmen get in on the action, kind of their first action of the season, maybe for some of them that didn't get to play last week. And that can be how you build depth. And this is a team and a program that needs to be doing that throughout the season. Like they need guys to step up, and tomorrow could be their first chance to show that. But I think through the air, last week, Charlotte didn't really attack South Carolina State down the field. Charlotte is a rebuilding program. I'll put it nicely, and their quarterback is not a very good thrower. I'll say that. And I think Jackson State really exposed some holes in the secondary for South Carolina State. So I'm looking for Georgia Tech to do more than that. Like this is by far the most talented team that South Carolina State's had to play, and the best passing attack that they've had to play. Also, when it comes to the passing offense, I know most Georgia Tech fans, I think, would feel this way, but just want to see a tight end get involved and catch the ball. Like they had some drops last week. Drops were a problem last year. Whether it's Dylan Leonard, Luke Benson, Brett Seether, like those guys have got to become a threat in the passing game. They can't be going out there and not be a threat, because then that allows better defenses than Louisville or South Carolina State that they're going to play later in the year. Like they're just not going to attack them very often. They're going to ignore them for the most part. So I want to see if a tight end can get involved tomorrow. and through the rest of the season as well. The offensive line is always going to be something to watch for Georgia Tech, and especially this week. Last week after the first few series, Corey Robinson was benched, and true freshman Ethan McKinney come in. And of course, there's going to be ups and downs when you're playing a true freshman at left tackle. But overall, like I thought he handled the moment pretty well. Like I thought he went out there. The run blocking, I think, was probably the most promising aspect of what he did last week, and I think the pass protection is going to come. Louisville has a pretty good defensive front. Their secondary is hit or miss, but I do think they have a good defensive front, and he blocked them pretty well. Like that was a pretty stiff first test for a true freshman playing in his first college football game. I want to see how he goes out there. Brent Key said this week that he's going to play plenty. Like expect McKinney to play plenty, and I want to see if he can go out there and handle himself well, because you gotta go into SEC territory next week when you go to Ole Miss. So he getting good reps this week hopefully will translate into a better performance throughout the season. But this will be a nice first test as well. Joe Fusile and Weston Franklin were two very highly graded players on PFF last week. And look, I know not everybody buys into PFF and what they grade and what they do, but seeing them have good grades is pretty solid, especially considering what they had last year. I thought they both played pretty well. And when Georgia Tech was able to run the ball last week, it was because of the interior getting to the second level and getting to the linebackers and getting a push. Like I think that was extremely important for them. And I think all those guys, hopefully Jordan Williams can stay on the field this week. And I think that if they can do that, like there should be lanes to run through this week. Like this is not trying to be disrespectful, but this is not a top defense, whether it's FBS or FCS. Like they should be able to run the ball this week. And then at right tackle, again, I thought the main problem with the offensive line last week was the pass protection from the tackles. And I think that's, again, something to watch this week. We'll get into South Carolina State's passing offense, which is pretty bad. But I think this week you're just no pressures on the quarterback. Like obviously everybody remembers the fumble at the end of the game, the blindside pressure. Some of that was, of course, the blocking. I think some of it was just bad pocket presence on Haynes King part. But I think just better pass protection from the tackles and continued improvement from the interior of the offensive line. And I'm sure y'all will get tired of me saying that throughout this video, but continued improvement is just what you're going to be looking for in a game like this, and especially off the first week of the season. Like it's kind of cliche to say, but improvement from week 1 to week 2, or you usually see the biggest improvement from week 1 to week 2 in college football. Like that's pretty well known, and I do think for the most part it's correct. Like you have to adjust for who you play, of course, but I do think that the biggest improvements can be made from week 1 to week 2, and on the offensive line, just pass protection from the tackles. Overall, I think they're not playing a good defense now. Jackson State and Charlotte didn't really have a ton of success running the football. I know in the game against Jackson State that they only allowed 138 yards and just a little over 4 yards a carry, and that's obviously not great. But I don't think they faced backs this explosive. Like Jamal Haynes is a very explosive back. Trey Cooley and Dante Smith are both very explosive backs. I want to see them being able to just dominate the line of scrimmage and run the ball, and then hit explosive plays down the field in the passing game. Like hit those guys outside the numbers. It's great when you can hit plays on screens and have guys make a couple guys miss and take it the distance. But at some point you're going to have to throw the ball down the field and keep defenses honest, and that's what I want to see from the offense as a whole tomorrow. I guess let's go to the defense now. The defense was probably not the bright spot last week when it comes to tackling, pass rush. They had some busted coverages out there. And this week, again, just improvement on the things that they were bad upon last week. And when it comes to the defense, like the list, it can get a little long. The tackling has to be better. Like that's something that no matter who you're playing, if you miss tackles, you are going to give up big plays. And when I rewatched the Louisville game, they had a fourth down play early in the third quarter where if they get off the field, you're still up by 15 and have a chance to go down and score and shoot the clock. But because of poor tackling, Louisville got the first down and then proceeded to get a field goal. So that really allowed them to get back in the game. And I'm not trying to relitigate that whole game again, but tackling just week over week has got to be better. And Keith said this week that was one of the top things that they're working on. And I want to see it, because even if they tackle poorly tomorrow, they should win. But going into the game against Ole Miss, you don't want to be like, well, they missed several tackles against South Carolina State still, and like the tackling wasn't improved, because you're going to be facing a different level of athlete in Oxford next week. So tackling has to improve, and they need to show signs of that. On the defensive line, they have to create havoc. Like they are the better unit in this game. Like South Carolina State cannot run the ball. They do it better than they do passing, granted, but they don't run the ball extremely well. And Georgia Tech did not have a tackle for loss last week and did not get a sack last week. Like those things have to change. And obviously, I hate that Sylvain is out for the year. I hope he has a speedy recovery. He's supposed to be back next season, and hopefully he will. He's great to talk to. He's a great leader. He does a lot in the locker room. I hate that he's going to be out for the season. But now some guys have to step up and replace him, whether it be Josh Robinson, Noah Collins. Kyle Kennard needs to make his presence known in this game as well, but also along the interior. This was a position that the coaches touted. I've touted as a position of possible strength, but again, the stats, they kind of speak for themselves. No tackles for loss, no pressure on the quarterback, and that really allowed Jake Plummer to get into rhythm last week. And now this week, I don't know who the quarterback's going to be, because in the first game, Corey Fields started for South Carolina State. He did not start the second game, and South Carolina State's head coach said he had a foot issue, and that allowed Andre Washington to play last week. And both of them are fairly inaccurate. Corey Fields was 7 of 20 for 60 yards in the first game. Andre Washington did come in and throw 3 passes and only completed 1 of them. And then against Charlotte last week, it was not great for Andre Washington. I mean, they didn't throw. They haven't eclipsed even 100 yards passing this season. So it's the Georgia Tech secondary is different than both the secondary South Carolina State has played so far. Again, Clayton Powell-Lee, I thought, played a really good game last week. He had the interception near the end of the first half. Of course, I think the tackling can be better from all aspects of the secondary, corners, safeties, what have you, but they have a very, very, very decisive edge in this matchup. And look, again, when you're facing an opponent like this, just go out and do what you're supposed to do. I'm not worried really about the secondary and their coverage. I thought the coverage wasn't really all that bad last week. When you're playing a team that throws the ball as much as Louisville and that has talented athletes like Jamari Thrash, like you're going to give up some big plays here and there. Like you're not going to go shut them down for 4 quarters. But now it's in this environment against this team, like I want to see just complete no busted plays. Like that's what I'm looking for the secondary. But the main thing on defense is being able to tackle better in space and creating havoc in the backfield. I thought Trinelius Tatum and Paul Moala were pretty solid last week. But again, I think the tackling in space and getting out there, like I wouldn't be surprised if South Carolina State pretty much does what Louisville did in the second half last week. You'll see some quick hits to the running backs and receivers, and then force Georgia Tech to make a tackle in the open field. Like that, I think you're going to see that a lot early on. And if they do that, like it shouldn't be a problem. But again, if you miss tackles, you can give up big plays. So just as a whole for the defense, it's being better at creating havoc up front. Like, I want to see Daquan Dowse make some big plays. I want to see the pass rushers get after the quarterback. I want to see the secondary be able to make plays on the ball against a team that really can't throw the ball. So as a whole, just play sound fundamental football and get after the passer and create havoc like that. Those are the things you need to look for. Another thing I'm watching really, really closely is the special teams. It wouldn't surprise me tomorrow especially if Georgia Tech gets out ahead, as I think most everybody thinks that they will. It wouldn't surprise me if Key and the coaching staff try to put the field goal unit in some situations where they have to hit some field goals, because I think Gavin Stewart needs some confidence. He is a good kicker. He was good last year. Look, I know he missed a couple last week, including the 33-yarder, but I do think he's a lot better than what he showed last week. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if they try to put him in some positions where he can hit a couple of easy ones or hit a couple wherever on the field. Just say, hey, we need you to be able to do this, and I think he can do it. So as far as special teams goes, that's what I'm looking for tomorrow. And the punting was pretty good last week. We all have bad memories of punts getting blocked last year. But I think overall, I thought David Shanahan really put the ball, pinned him deep a couple of possessions. He really, let me see. I mean, he had a long of 50, put him inside the 23 times. So I thought he did a really good job of being consistent last week. And if you can get that every game from him and not allow any blocks, it's pretty good. I thought Dominic Blaylock was good as a punt returner last week. He averaged over 8 yards a return. I think the kickoff returns could be a little bit better, but I think, again, it was week one. You're going to see a lot of mistakes, and I think that's ultimately what I'm looking for. Just, again, continued improvement. Like I'm going to say it a million more times before this is over. But ultimately, I want to see them just come out and just dominate. Like it's at the end of the day, you are playing a very overmatched opponent, and you're playing a game that you should win by a lot. And I want to see them win by a lot. Like I want to see them dominate these kind of games. Last year against Western Carolina, yes, they won by 35-14, I think was the final score. But I think everybody remembers Western Carolina hit some big plays in the first half of that game, and that led to some an uncomfortable close score at the beginning of that game. And I just want to see from start to finish tomorrow come out and really take care of business. And they're more than capable of doing so, because you're going to play in a really tough environment next week. Oxford is a really tough place to play, and you need as much confidence as you can. And I think this group does have confidence, even though they're disappointed over last week's result. That's over now. So now they have to go out and take care of business. As far as a prediction goes, look, I think Georgia Tech wins handily. I wrote today, I thought 51-7 was where I landed on. Like, I think this is – I won't say run up the score, but I think you want to see them – I think they're going to try to score plenty of points. I'll say that. Like, in a game like this, looking to bounce back, I think they're going to be angry after what happened last week, especially in the second half. I think they're going to look to come out, play consistent 4 quarters of football on offense, be able to run the ball in all 4 quarters, and be able to consistently throw the ball down the field. Like, I think that's what's going to happen, and I think it will happen. I think this team's going to be 1-1 tomorrow. I don't think any fans are going to be under any stress that they don't want to be on tomorrow. I think they're going to come out and try to take some shots early, try to get them down, and then just work on their offense the rest of the game. So I definitely think it's going to be a Georgia Tech blowout, because they need to get healthy and get ready for next week. So that'll do it for this breakdown and prediction. Tomorrow the game kicks off at 1. It will be on ESPN Plus, and I will be running a live blog over on the website. And I would love if anybody would come in. You're free to comment, do whatever you will, but I will be running a live blog tomorrow for anybody that doesn't have ESPN Plus or can't stream or anything tomorrow. The game starts at 1 o'clock. It will be at Bobby Dodd. So if you're coming, I encourage you to come out, fill the stadium up. It should be a fun atmosphere tomorrow for what should be a pretty good game for the Yellow Jackets. So again, I encourage everybody to come out tomorrow. I will be here breaking down this game Monday and getting ready for Ole Miss. That's obviously going to be a big game, especially, everybody remembers what happens last year. So there's going to be hopefully motivation from what happened last year in Atlanta, and they'll carry that into Oxford. But I will be here breaking down tomorrow's game on Monday, giving a little look ahead to the Rebels, Lane Kiffin. They have a big game against Tulane this week, so we'll see how that turns out and what kind of momentum they're going to be facing this week. So I appreciate anybody that tuned in. It means a lot to me. Anybody that reads anything on the website, be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like this video. I plan to do 2 episodes a week right now, but maybe we can do more as things continue to grow. But truly do appreciate anybody that's tuned in. Anybody that's listening on podcast, you can find that wherever your podcasts are available. It'll be out shortly after I wrap up here. So, yeah, that'll do it for this show today. And I hope everybody comes out to Bobby Dodd and supports the team tomorrow.